Steve Gillmor. This is the Gillmor Gang. The following things will be on this show. We're going to talk about Apple. We're going to talk about Google. We're going to talk about Netflix. We're going to talk about...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is the new opening. And the new opening is the end of the show. So I'd like to thank Rackspace, and particularly Rob Legess. I'd like to thank... New Tech and their amazing TriCaster. I'd like to thank Ustream for their support and interest.
Crazy.
And let's see who else. Thanks to our producer and director Tina Chase Gillmor, and members of the band, starting with Robert Scoble. Thanks, Robert.
Hey, what's going on, man? Just got back from South by Southwest.
Excellent. I also like to thank Keith Teare. Keith, thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a great morning. I go and have my coffee now.
Okay. And last but certainly not least, Kevin Marks. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, what's going on, Robert?
Oh, well, you know, South by was really interesting. Where do I start with that? First, let's start with what it's not. It's not a small little tiny conference anymore like it was 12 years ago when I started going, when there was only 500 people. Now there's 30,000 people just for interactive and a lot more for music. By the way, there was a tragedy. I'm sure you saw the news, and the drunk driver drove through, 25 people, a block from my hotel. That was pretty sad.
And you chose that moment to go silent, so we were wondering whether you were one of the people in the way.
Yeah.
Were you near the place?
No, I was at a private party. That's why I was silent. So, I was trying to stay off social media during South by Music because I was just having a good time and sort of taking a little mini vacation. And threw a little party.
South by jumped the shark?
No, you know what's really interesting is that night, Rocky, me, and Slash and Bram Cohen were inside a secret room at Capitol Factory for, half an hour just chatting. And that can only happen at South by. I've never seen that kind of mixture between tech and music anywhere else. And South by is a unique music festival. Let's talk about the music festival, because that was the last 3 days of my life. There are literally hundreds of acts going on at the same time, and everything from big spectacle like Lady Gaga all the way down to little tiny bars that are, have 30 people in them with an act. And it's an extraordinary show if you love music, and it's really extraordinary if you have Group Me going with some people who really do their homework. We had a guy named Anton. His wife works in social media at Indiegogo, and him and her were giving us a tour around South by. They had bands. They had listened to every band that was playing at South by, and they had made notes on who was good, new acts. And we visited, I think, 8 different acts in one evening, and it was just extraordinary. It was really great. You can't do that at Coachella. You can't do that at Austin City Limits or here in San Francisco, Outside Lands. Outside Lands is fun, but it doesn't have that mixture of the spectacle and the little micro new and up-and-coming artists. And that's, if you're into music, I highly recommend it, but you really have to have a tour guide who knows the scene to really have that kind of experience. And we'll do it again next year. Back to interactive. 1,500 people showed up to my talk, and that's pretty rare at any other conference. You might get that at a TechCrunch Disrupt or a launch conference, but that's a one-room conference. This is literally 30,000 people in one city all going with badges, paid. And there's probably another 50 out in the streets that didn't pay. So there's 85,000 people in one city who are mostly geeks, and the networking is extraordinary because of that. I know some people stayed home this time and they said, "Oh, it's too expensive or too crowded," and that's okay. But it's now the number one place if you want to network and build new relationships with people across the industry. Make sense?
Yeah, I wonder whether or not the separation between the technology and the music seems to have widened.
It really is mixing together because every evening at Interactive there was concerts and parties, and these are not small things anymore. These are tents with 4,000 people in them for like eight. I went to AT&T and danced until 4 a.m. with people at the EDM tents. Electronic. I'm getting an echo all of a sudden.
It's all right. Well, we'll just soldier on.
Yep. So there's 5,000 people just at one party, and there still is some of the spectacle kinds of shows that you can do. The thing is that you don't get the micro. The micro music shows up after the interactive ends. But there's it's because it drags so many people in who have big names from music to the interactive. It is a good place to intermix and build relationships with Hollywood. I saw several Hollywood stores. I went to one party that eBay threw, and in the VIP room there was Shaq, there was the cast of Games of Thrones, and their managers. So if you were good at networking, you could definitely build relationships that could lead to interesting things.
But that was Hollywood, not music.
Well, there's music stars there too. I mean, I saw music every single night of Interactive, as well as at the music show. Mm-hmm. And it's also interesting. There's a really good startup scene happening in Austin. So, Capital Factory the night before before Interactive starts does a startup crawl, and it was so packed. It was like a sardine can. That really is a major event now. So people are coming early just to do that. Then they go to Interactive, and then they stay for music. I mean, you could be there. I was there. I was in Texas for 10 days, and I could still be there. In fact, my badge is still being used to get people into these concerts tonight. So.
Keith, have you ever been there?
I have. I launched. Well, launch is the wrong word because it was a year before we really launched. But I pre-marketed Just on Me at South by Southwest in 2011, and that led to me raising $500,000 from Google Ventures and True Ventures and BetaWorks and Crunch Fund and others. So it's definitely great if you have a goal in mind. If you're kind of aimless, it's difficult. I also the next year I had a meeting, very, very senior meeting with CNN regarding the Now.TV stuff we talked about last week, and I never would have met these people anywhere else. But you definitely have to have a goal in mind. You can't go there just to party.
Well, you can go there just to party, but even if you go there just to party, it's a lot more fun if you have 5 to 10 friends who can invite you to stuff. And it's interesting because I use GroupMe there, and Rackspace sponsored all the Startup Bus stuff. So all the Startup Buses, I don't know, 5 or 10 different buses from around the United States and Mexico who drive to San Antonio and build a startup on their bus, and then demo it when they get to San Antonio, and then they go from there on to South by Southwest, and each one of them had a GroupMe going, and I was a member of all those. Now those people are not insiders at all. They're newbies to South by and newbies to the tech industry. Really, that's why they're doing Startup Bus, to try to build a network of their own, so that they can get jobs and learn something new and build some friendships, stuff like that. And their experience out on the street is how I experienced, these parties before I was a VIP. And it's fun to watch their experiences and what they are doing. What bar do they go to, or restaurant, or so on and so forth. And it's really easy to join something like that and build a lifelong friendship with somebody. And it's a lot more fun. But I was watching them for the really fun stuff, and if they said, "Man, this band is really cool," I'd go right there and watch that. And then I had 3 or 4 VIP different group me's that were, like, Keith, if you come, I'll put you on a few of those. And then we would exchange VIP passes. Like, I got 20 people into the eBay, the Snoop concert, and that was fun. So you don't have to wait in line and stuff like that. But you're right. If you really want to, it's more fun if you have a goal. Even if your goal is to party your ass off. If you have some friends going in there that are doing the same thing, it makes it a lot more fun.
By the way, if you guys can hear noise in the background, I have a distressed 70-year-old who wants his dad's attention. I think he's lost patience with me not coming right now, so it's probably okay.
Okay, well, I don't know what to do with that information, but
yeah, we weren't hearing anything, so that's good.
Yeah,
I didn't hear it.
The wonders of directional microphones.
Kevin,
Yeah.
Kevin, have you ever been there?
I didn't go to South by Southwest this year, and that was because at the moment I'm independent and it was too expensive. Yeah. A few years ago, when I was in between BT and Salesforce, I paid for myself to go and managed to make the trip. But I looked into it now, and the price of accommodation and travel there was prohibitive, and I think that's a problem. It used to be that it was a place of pilgrimage for the small independent developers who would go there and connect up with everyone else and get a sense of the state of the industry. And it's harder and harder to do that because you have to book your hotel room now for next year, or you have to have corporate backing to get you a decent place to stay, and it ends up being a much more expensive place.
It depends how creative you are and how good of friends you make before you get to South by. A friend of mine's laid off, and he went in somebody's RV down there, so he saved some flight money, and then he stayed with them in their RV and did it on the cheap. And I heard quite a few of those stories.
I'm not saying
where
I
people
couldn't
stayed
go there and camp in a tent or something, or go and crash on someone. But and I've done the other side of that when I had an expense account in a hotel room. I've let people sleep on the floor and things. So it's just that. You have to. It's harder if it's just to turn up and then meet people and meet the web developers that you used to be able to go and do. That was what I was getting at.
No, it is true. You have to be a lot more creative to save money, and it is more expensive than it used to be. I do miss that part of the old South by when it was 500 people and it was mostly web developers or people who were not CEOs, not CTOs, not VCs. But I still met quite a few of those, so there's still a piece of that. But it is getting to be a place where it's more fun if you have some money. But even Anton, he's laid off. His wife's working at Indiegogo, and he said we did several things to save money. For instance, if you stay all the way through music, the flight back is pretty cheap because most of the music fans there are not flying in. They're not, if you fly in just for interactive and fly out, your flight can be $500 to $1,000. I flew into San Antonio and flew out of Austin on a non-standard day, and I think I paid $200 for my flight. So you can certainly save money if you're creative, but that requires you to plan ahead and get an Airbnb with friends and figure out how you're going to get around town, which is really, I got to give a shout out to Life 360. They gave me a brand new BMW i3 with my own driver, and that was fucking awesome. that was the best.
Exactly.
Sorry about the swearing, but that was extraordinary. And so Guy Kawasaki wrote that it was the best gift he'd ever gotten, and And I shared it with all sorts of people, because I didn't need it all that much, right? But anybody who needed a ride, I got it and got them to go get picked up, and that was a lot of fun.
Okay,
one thing I will say, I hope this isn't controversial, but
oh, God forbid.
South by is not really a must-do if you're a startup in the Valley or anywhere else for that matter, because most of the people you need to talk to, you need to get an hour with them to do anything significant, and it's very unlikely you're going to get an hour with them at South by. So the best thing you can do there is serendipity. You can meet people you wouldn't otherwise meet, or you can be part of a competition and be focused on PR. But you can't go there as an alternative to schlepping up and down, Sand Hill Road, Palo Alto, South San Francisco.
Great insight. And by the way, South by used to be a good launch vehicle for startups. Twitter launched there, Foursquare launched there, and several companies launched there that became big. I would not launch there anymore. But Hang With is an app that's using celebrities to build a brand, and they sponsored the 50 Cent concert, and they did it very, very well. And that's how you build a brand nowadays. And you have to take some of your marketing dollars and think about how are you going to tie your brand to mainstream audiences. And Hang With has done that with celebrities even before South by.
What is Hang With?
It's a live video broadcast app. And it's great for celebrities who want to broadcast to their audiences. And get somebody off of Facebook and Twitter and have an interaction an interaction while they're broadcasting a concert or something like that. So if you could actually go and watch the 50 Cent concert that I was at on Hang With, and I'll see if I can pull up the...
While you're looking for that, did you see anything about notifications at Southwest?
There was a lot of wearables. I saw a shirt with a grid of LEDs built into the shirt. That's really expensive right now. But, if you think about 3 to 5 years away, that's going to be a $100 shirt.
Now, I'm talking about right now. Are there any startups or any apps that were being promoted in any way that support notifications?
Well, Hang With is how about Robert? Secret. Very popular. Hang With was very popular. GroupMe was very popular at South by, and then all the standard ones. Everybody was using Facebook or Spotify or Twitter or the food apps to find food.
Was there any evidence? Was there any evidence of either Secret or Whisper? Because they both got huge funding rounds in the last week.
Secret came up in conversations a lot. That is an app that is very hot. I'm mixed with it. I started out really negative, and they called one of the founders called me and said, sorry you've had a bad experience. They are making changes to the app to make sure that people are not personally attacked on there, and that's sort of making
that's going to screw them up.
I don't think so, because
no, it's totally going to screw them up. Because
I loaded the app this morning again to check it out, and there wasn't anything about people on there. It was all hey, I'm having trouble. People are talking about their startups in an interesting way that they would never talk about it on Quora, for instance.
You must remember what was that social network before MySpace? Friendster.
Yeah.
Friendster started off really big and then started laying down the law about what the rules of behavior were, and people just abandoned it. And it isn't necessarily that Secret's wrong. It's more that people don't react well to being told what the constraints are, and generally abandon that platform for something more unconstrained. And I think and you would do the same. Actually, I think you were a victim, right? Somebody had to go at you. I can't remember now.
A little bit, but that's not why I left it. I left before they even aimed it at me. I just felt like I was on it for an entire weekend and really addictive. It is a very addictive app, but it felt too much like a a grocery store gossip rag to me.
Well, that's why I raised it, because Steve asked about notifications. I only installed Secret a week ago. I really didn't want to install it, and then I thought, I've got to install it just to check it out. And it is notifications central. I mean, every 5 minutes, someone made a secret.
Yeah.
And it's 100% notification driven, and it pulls you back into the app. Obviously, you can only have so many apps that do that. Otherwise, your notification stream gets full of noise. And this is noise. Mostly, it's not interesting once you get there.
Yeah, I don't care whether it's noise or whether it's good or whether it's bad. I just want to know whether there are any startups that were visible at South by Southwest that supported notifications in any way. So we've got one now.
Well,
what else?
Hang With was another one where if I start a video with Hang With and you're on the Hang With app, it'll notify you that I'm broadcasting, and you can click on it and watch me broadcast a concert or something like that.
And how is it that it notifies you? Is it just
on the
it broadcasts to everybody who has the app?
Yeah, you follow people. You follow your favorite celebrities. So if you want to hear from Lady Gaga, you follow Lady Gaga, right? Mm-hmm. Or you follow me or whoever.
So it's an aggregator of celebrity news and video?
All broadcast video. Anybody can broadcast on it. And if you want to follow Steve Gillmor and you broadcast something on your iPhone, I get to watch.
Yeah, but I'm not a celebrity, so...
No, but you have 50 people who will watch it.
But how do you know that?
Because you're.
How do they know it? But my point is that Hang With sounds like it's geared toward the celebrity vortex rather than.
Well, they're using celebrity to build a brand, so normal people use it because they know they know most people just want to follow their friends. They don't want to follow Lady Gaga all that much, Mm-hmm. I mean, it's fun to follow Lady Gaga or whoever your favorite. Like Slash. I'd love to follow Slash.
But are your friends outputting video? Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
What on what channels?
Fact, different channel. You find them. Through you bring in your Facebook with it. So
it's kind of like Justin TV was initially, except it looks a bit more scalable.
Okay. Speaking of those videos, that Gaffigan or whatever his last name is. Obama video is amazingly funny.
I didn't watch it. I just saw a couple of clips, and the couple of clips I saw, Obama looked incredibly uncomfortable and was trying to be serious when confronted with.
No, you have to see the whole thing because in fact, he was funnier than the other guy, and I think the other guy's funny.
No, he does some very good
Zach
work in that. It's a good piece of comedy. Yes.
What
the other interesting thing about TV, by the way, is Sarah Palin just announced she's doing her own channel, Tap TV. It's 2 P's, TAPP.TV. It's been done by Jeff Gaspin and John Klein from CNN, and they basically say that they're launching. A network of internet channels where the
unfair and unbalanced.
Unfair and unbalanced, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of interesting, actually. It's one of the first video things for the internet that.
Why is that interesting?
Well, because I think it's about the separation of celebrities from networks and the ability of celebrities to engage an audience all by themselves. And that's interesting because it's.
But where does that go? Unless they feed back into their political careers, it's a waste of time.
Well, that's hard to say. I mean, does Conan O'Brien? Is Conan O'Brien suffering? There's that guy that left MSNBC and is now a multimillionaire who's doing his own show. I've forgotten his name.
Yeah, he got $30 million from NBC to leave.
Right.
And he's got a good deal with TBS.
Well, so, if you think about record labels, bands, a lot of bands like Prince is a great example, start with a label, get pissed off because they're a slave to the label, get famous, get rich, and then start their own label. And
Slash told me that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, but a lot of those people, they get rich, they start their own label, then they get broke, and then they make a 360 deal with some record company. I mean, that's typically what happens.
Not for Neil Young. And let's talk about Neil Young's new
Neil
audio
Young's,
thing that he did announce at South
Neil
by.
Young is distributed
and he raised
by
$1 million or $2 million in 3 days on Kickstarter for this Pono app, Pono player, which is putting a non-compressed high bit rate audio out there so that you can get really high quality audio. And we talked a lot about that at South by, and we're fairly
but you have to
excited
remember that his deal with I forget which sub label of Warner's that he's still on. I think he's still on Reprise. He has a very, very smart manager who has ridden all of those waves and has made sure that the lion's share of his revenue and his deal with that record company is pretty unassailable. It's he has a back catalog that is gold, heart of gold, right?
Yeah, but Steve, you must admit you can't. I don't know if you're saying this, so let me understand what you're saying. But you don't disagree that the cheapening of distribution infrastructure and marketing infrastructure likely leads to a new role for the publisher, the guy in the middle.
Yeah.
Which is diminished compared to what it used to be.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what's diminished. I mean, a lot of disruptive technologies take the money out of an equation. It doesn't necessarily mean that it flows back to a single artist who is going alone. I mean, Prince, I don't know if he's still distributing himself, but there was a period of time when he first started it, he was a little early, and it was not successful. At this point, he's reinvented himself several more times, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is some sort of record company involvement or some sort of institution of lower learning that's involved in his deal. I think it's oversimplified. I mean, the Eagles went to Walmart. But I think they make the lion's share of their money on tour, so it's probably owned significantly by one of those conglomerates.
I think there's a broader point. Do you know Ken Lehrer, he was co-founder at Huffington Post? Mm-hmm. He's got a venture fund in New York, Lehrer Ventures, and they're really focused on the new golden age of content, is how he thinks of it. That basically, because we now have so much access to so much stuff, and we're beginning to get the ability to self-curate what it is we see and what we don't see, that we're moving back to a new golden age of content in which it's smart to invest in content creators, because content distributors is unlikely to be where the money is anymore, because the money can flow much more directly from the viewer to the creator. Now, you are right, I think, that the pie may shrink, because as a result of needing less infrastructure, you need to share it less, and therefore you can make more money yourself while taking less from the audience in total.
And that's not just with music or anything. My book, for instance, has now sold 21,000 copies. My first book sold 38,000 copies, but we've made more revenue off of this book already, and we have more freedom. And the freedom is really what both Slash and I talked about. The ability to do what you want and not have to convince a committee to do it is really what's going on here. That the downside of that is you need new skills on getting noticed. And South by is a great example of that. You see lots of bands with 50, 40 people in their audiences, and you see some bands like Lady Gaga and 50 Cent that have thousands of people in their audiences. And so how do you move up that chain?
By the way, in addition to that, I mean, alerts and notifications become the new means of a person alerting their audience.
Yeah, that was my
something
point.
Worth engaging with.
That's my point. Is that we haven't really heard about any shift. I mean, when Dennis Crowley went down to South by and launched Foursquare, it was the place to do the viral launch. That's not the case anymore.
Well, you know who did it this week? Apple. I don't know if any of you watched the iTunes Festival yet on your Apple TV, but if you're on your Apple TV watching anything, it doesn't matter what you're watching, when Coldplay were due to start, you got an alert on your Apple TV saying Coldplay would like you to come and watch them live in Austin.
Yeah, well, what a shock that Apple has a clue about this emerging notifications environment. The question I have for Kevin, I mean, what are you working on? Did you say what you were working on, or is that sort of behind the after chat that we were talking about?
I'm not talking about what I'm working on at the moment yet, but
Okay.
I'm definitely interested in this area. Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of
But,
space where people can publish stuff online and grow a following that doesn't have to be at the same scale that it would have to be in a old mainstream media world, because there are the cost of distribution is so much lower. One of the problems that musicians have, and Zoe Keating wrote an essay about this week, is that the labels have effectively decided that the way they make money is through owning everything, because there are only 4 of them left. So they're aggregators, and they're doing deals
There have
with
never been more than
Spotify
4.
and Apple and Google Play and Amazon, where they get paid, a few cents for everything you play, and because they own a quarter of everything in the world, they still get paid, whereas the artists are getting very small amounts from this. So the artists are coming up other ways, and I think the Kickstarter has been an example of this, and Pono is an interesting one. There's a bunch of, I have some sort of technical
Yeah, but you're running away from what I wanted to ask
I think
you.
that the fact that they've gone directly to the fans and said, do you want to buy all your music again? Well, here's your chance.
I think there's something
identified
deeper to
a
what
piece of
Neil's
it that
actually
people are
doing.
upset with the
He's
way
not-
that
I'm
music
gonna
has been
turn him
mixed
off.
recently, and they're coming up with a way of countering that, even though I think the way they're doing it is slightly over-engineered.
Okay, I've muted you so that other people can talk. Go ahead.
I think Neil is actually doing something different. He's trying to break in a new format so that we can get to higher quality music. And I really love him for that, because 44.1 kilohertz music that's highly compressed on MP3 sounds like shit. And we need to get over that. We now have the bandwidth to deliver a much larger files for audio and give us much better quality. And Neil took me into his studio and let me talk to his audio engineer, and we actually went through all the different sampling rates.
And you're shaking your
It
head.
is quite noticeable.
Kevin,
what
why
the
are you
differences
shaking your
are.
head?
What's that?
Kevin, why are you shaking your head?
So this is bollocks. 44.1 is plenty for human hearing. 16-bit is
not.
plenty for any kind of bit depth.
It's not.
The thing that has been wrong over the last few years has been that people have been mixing it with a very, very low dynamic range.
It's not. I at South by I went and listened to a new format from THX. So there's 2 new formats coming, the Pono format and THX. THX actually uses a higher bit rate and has multi-channel built into it with a new
multi-channel
object-oriented
is a different thing.
audio
We've had SACDs
system.
for
It
20,
is fucking
15 years, I think.
awesome, man.
How old are SACDs?
That's 2.
When you listen to it side by side, it is not even close. And we are ready for new audio format. I don't know who's going to win, but we're ready.
Okay.
It's
so-
kind of like the 4K discussion. Do we need 4K? No.
No.
Are we going to
but-
get it?
but
Yes.
Here's one thing that they
No,
did.
it's not like that, because
Hey, guys,
there is a perceptual difference.
gotta
with 4K.
see this.
I mean,
You
yeah,
gotta
the difference
see
between
this.
4K and HD is small, but there is no actual perceptual difference between 44.1 and
4K streams.
192 stuff, except that you may get some ultrasonic crossover. And,
You're
people have
absolutely
actually
wrong,
done
Kevin.
A/B
When you
listening
listen
tests
to
on
them
this in
side by
controlled
side,
conditions,
you are absolutely
know
wrong.
that.
I'm sorry, when you listen to them side by side, done scientifically, you are absolutely wrong. Both Harman Kardon
No, you're absolutely
and
wrong.
THX and Neil Young have demoed this to me. There is a huge difference in these new formats compared to 44.1 MP3 format.
But
Okay, scientifically means doing
is
a proper
there a
ABX
science?
study where you don't know which one. you
I've
listen
been
to,
in the
and
lab
person
down at
playing doesn't know
Harman.
which
They
one you
have a
listen to.
blind
Proper double
testing
blind
lab,
study.
and
When
they
you do
let me
that,
listen
you
to
cannot
it.
tell the difference.
What's
What
that?
does what does the science say about the hearing capacity of the human ear?
They've tested it at Harman. Harman makes JBL speakers with teenagers, and they can hear a difference. They also, THX did a separate study, blind testing study, and they found 60% more engagement on video games with this new format because the human ear can hear the difference and and it really affects the quality. We are ready for a much better quality format. We have better speakers now. We have better internet delivery mechanisms, and we are ready for a new format.
I'm never against new formats, but
I don't
but
think.
I'm
Okay,
more
let
interested.
me give
I'm more interested in whether there's an
we
audible.
don't need a new format. All the formats we have actually support high bit rate, high sample rate, high sample depth. Okay, we supported this in QuickTime in 2002. We shipped it then. It's available in existing formats. We don't actually need a new format for that. It's uncompressed audio files are quite capable of doing this.
You know
Okay,
what?
so,
I'll tell you what I would like. What I would like is to get the multi-stream off of the mixing desk with all of the independent channels and be able to remix things.
Yes, and there are companies that are starting to do it, so you can actually get the stems so you can remix things themselves. There are companies that are starting to do bits of that. There was a good discussion about this at SF Music Tech last year, and the issue and what they found is that there isn't a good way to do this with just slices. So you end up having long tracks that have big chunks of silence in, because then you just line up the samples and they stay in sync.
Why don't they just
use? Sell you that now? It's specialized because the only people who really want that are DJs. But you could certainly build a format that actually had sample accurate edits in it. Because because we built one.
What about just using GarageBand?
And it's
just use
the difficulty. There's a lot of mysticism around audio, and then there's actual practicality. But the big but one of the things that Pono does, it has two outputs, because they're designed with different mixes for different circumstances. That's a sensible thing.
But what about just using a format like GarageBand that already has 64 tracks or whatever it is, depending on how many you define? Couldn't you just distribute your GarageBand original?
People have done that, but the problem is there isn't a good way to move it between different mixing things, except as a succession of raw files you can drop in as independent tracks. That's
okay. So I'm going to talk,
there isn't a good consistent format for multi-track.
I'm going to talk for a second, and if people start talking and don't stop, then I'll turn everybody off. Okay. So from the artist's perception, particularly in the overtones from acoustic instruments, there has been no successful format. Now, I want to underline that. What we're talking about with Pono and these other things are not yet successful formats. What they are science projects.
Yes.
But it's kind of like two ships in the night, or two people yelling past each other. This argument, everything that Kevin says is true, and everything that Robert says is true. Yeah. There's the thing that I'm waiting for is enough critical mass in this next generation of digital technology that supports the kinds of things that I used to see in the studio back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, which has largely gone away as a result, not to anybody's deficit, but just because of the reality of the iPod.
Well, let me talk a little bit, Steve, about Spotify. Most people don't know that in the settings in the Spotify app, you can increase the bit rate up to 320 kilobits per second. And that, on my home audio system, does make a big difference. The problem is the streaming companies are paying for that bandwidth. Let's say Spotify's Amazon or Rackspace Cloud bill is, let's say, $500,000 a month, which is not unreasonable for this kind of output. Let's say they double the sampling rate, which would bring a pretty good sized increase in quality. their bill would go up to $1 million a month.
Okay,
and the investors are not very happy at you for making that kind of choice. And that's really what's going on. We now have technology to bring full-ass surround sound to your headphones, to your normal headphones, and really high bit rate, good quality audio like through the Pono format to you. But there's a economic blocker with the streaming services and with other things.
That's correct.
Where they don't want to pay for the increased bandwidth.
That's correct. And it's not a question of whether they want to pay for it or not. It's not available to them. You know, I have Spotify. I have everything that I have is at that highest bit rate because it sounds better. The problem is that you have to basically log on to the web in Spotify every 30 days or less so that you don't have to then re-download for offline storage.
Right.
I don't listen to anything now in music except through Spotify because, you know, like the new Beck record, I read about it. I want to be able to go click and get it. There it is. The only thing that it doesn't have, Spotify doesn't have any liner's notes, but Wikipedia does a pretty good job of letting me know most of what I'm interested in finding out about the recording. So there's already a delivery mechanism, but the economics still aren't there. You know, this is kind of a case for podcasting, which is, you know, some sort of invisible or less visible to the user download and store on local clients, you know, perhaps predictive in terms of what you want to listen to avoid this charge. What I want to be able to do is what I in fact do, which is to avoid, when I get to 28 days or so, if I'm traveling only once a month, this only becomes an issue around that 30-day mark. As long as I re-up with the subscription, then I don't have to re-download, so I don't trigger the bandwidth usage. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
Okay, so if they were to take that model and provide for an extra couple bucks a month the ability not to have to keep switching this off, I've got it on a, you know, I pay for the thing on an automatic payment plan, so there's no reason why I'm going to not be there from Spotify's perspective, but they're not yet providing a service that allows me to be able to basically convert it. They don't really want to do that because the record companies don't really want me to avoid paying for the full bundle of whatever it is that they're selling. So, you know, you're right that there's an economic blockade here, but there's also coming, and this is where I was trying to get back to the notification discussion, and the question for Kevin is, Keith talked about notifications on Apple TV. What's the story with Android? Is Apple the only clueful company in this space, or
I don't. It's interesting when we did a panel with Gary Shapiro at both Interactive at South by. He runs the Consumer Electronics Show and music, and both times I asked people who has an iPhone in the house. 90% at both conferences had iPhones. So this does not match the market share numbers. Obviously, we're in the broader market. 90% have Android.
Right. This is why I'm asking, because the notifications are not going to be the end game until Android joins the party at an equal level.
I have Android, and I think the notifications are pretty good. I don't see that as a differentiator for either platform. I like iPhone's notifications.
No, it's for both platforms.
Right,
what I'm saying is that what I'm asking, Kevin, every time we have a discussion about anything, he holds up an Android. So I'm asking Mr. Android on this call, what is the status of notifications as far as Google is concerned? Are they paying attention? Are they, if they're not going to South by, are they going somewhere else to be able to promote notification-based apps?
Yeah, they're paying attention to notifications. I'm not sure of the exact use case here. So the equivalent would be YouTube Live notifying you that something was on. Perhaps is that the use case you're talking about?
Well, take a look at what Keith described. Something, nothing's going on. All of a sudden, you get a notification on your TV through Apple TV that says something's going on. Why don't you come over here? Is Google doing that?
Yeah.
Is Chromecast a failure?
No.
No. I mean, Chromecast could do that. It's perfectly possible because it can be triggered remotely. So my phone could turn on the Chromecast and do that. They haven't done that because that would be bloody weird. But
it would be bloody
weird. The way they would do it would be to send you a notification from YouTube, which is running on your phone, to say there's this thing now, turn it on. They could do that. YouTube has the ability to send notifications. I don't think they've done that yet. Their subscription model for YouTube is not notification based as far as I know. I'll go and have a look.
There you go. That's all I wanted to hear was it's not notification based. Now, Keith,
right, but that has nothing to do with Android, Steve.
What is the difference between Android and Google? As far as I can tell, nothing.
No, because I have a YouTube app on my iPhone, and I don't get notifications there either. It has nothing to do with Android. That's a separate discussion from Android.
I'm talking about whether or not I'm simply trying to tease out of the radiation level here. The question is,
here's another way to look at
who's paying attention to notifications.
Google Plus does do notifications on both Android and iPhone, and so does Gmail, and so do other things. It's just YouTube has not chosen to put many notifications through.
I got you. I'm not asking that. What I'm asking is whether or not what Keith was describing, in my opinion, is a disruptive introduction of an important application of notifications on Apple TV. Does Google share an interest and or investment excitement in this issue? When YouTube, which is growing like weeds, doesn't support notifications as far as we can tell, that would tend to be an interesting problem for Google in either the short or medium term.
Here's where I think Google's going. I believe they're moving the notification to two places, Google Plus and Google Now. And Google Now on both Android and iPhone definitely do send me notifications. And so does Gmail, and so does Google Plus. The fact that YouTube does not yet send notifications is an artifact of the kind of thing that it does. And it wouldn't be hard for them to do notifications. It's just, do you really want to be notified that a new video showed up from Chris Pirillo, for instance, or from the Gillmor Gang? It might be fun, but I think it has to be done more carefully. And I think the strategy of Google is to roll those notifications into Google Plus, and that's where you're going to get them.
Okay, well...
Here's the Google Now example.
Keith, did you just went off with your picture, and now you're back, but it looks like you're locked? I don't know what's going on.
I'm here, but...
no, you're locked on video. Go ahead, Kevin.
I'll call you back.
So in response to what Robert was saying, I just watched my thing fade out. So Google Now has this notification model where it'll tell you, oh, Malik's posted a new blog post, this other site you're reading is posting a new blog post. So they've got the reader notification thing pushed into Google Now. Now, they're not popping up as notification alerts. They're there when I pull up. Similarly, YouTube has a little pref for receive content notifications, but I haven't seen any of those. But what it does do is when I log on, it starts out with what to watch and shows me new things from people I've subscribed to, and things I've watched recently as well. So there'll be a set of episodes and things there as what to watch as the full page. I have seen Google Now alerts for nearby events and things like that, saying there's a concert going on nearby. Would you want to go and see that? But I haven't seen that particular combination of there's a live broadcast starting soon. You should watch this. But they have the possibility of that. They just may not have organised the process for you. So that's
why do you think?
I suspect it's something they're thinking about. But they've been fairly cautious about sending these notifications because they're trying not to make them annoying so people turn them off.
Yeah, but I think that's a completely different discussion. I mean, they're not shy at all about doing Google Now, where they're pushing all sorts of information that they figured out algorithmically. They're not shy about that. What's the problem with notifications? I mean, I know the answer. The answer is there is no problem with notifications. If something gets too noisy, people will fire the app. It's as simple as that.
No, on both Android and iPhone, there's also ways to turn down the number of notifications.
That's right.
Or turn them off completely.
That's correct. And there's also I had a fascinating experience yesterday, Robert, and I tweeted about it, and nobody responded. Maybe because nobody cares or nobody listens to me. But but here's what
we were all at South by getting drunk. That's what.
Well, I didn't take it personally.
Or otherwise, I wasn't drinking this week. But
I don't take it personally, as you know. I regularly call my people that are following me. So the question, what happened was, I was on Facebook, which is this new startup that Robert, you told me about.
What, hang with?
No, Facebook.
Yeah.
And there were, and I don't know whether I was on the web or on the other client. Let me just maximize Keith. Good, thank you. I don't know if it was the web or the app, but there were 3 or 4. Tina posted something about our daughter who got into her first choice for prep school.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and I shared it. I also liked it, and as I did, this additional text showed up. It was like, share, comment, or maybe the other way around. Get notification.
Yep.
I clicked it. I started getting notifications on that item.
Yep.
And then I went back 5 minutes later and looked for it and couldn't find it anywhere.
Okay.
Okay, so Facebook is testing this.
Yes.
Okay. I did some searches on Twitter about get notification on Facebook and found 2 comments about it about 3 weeks ago. Is this something that happens, and why is it that I got it for a second and then didn't get it?
Because they're doing A/B testing and trying things out. They're also turning on a new news feed. I got a message at the top of Facebook yesterday saying my new news feed is going to come within days.
Right, the simplified, re-streamed, configured news.
They constantly are testing new features and seeing if people use them and seeing if people complain about them, and whether to, and they use that data on whether to roll it out to a bigger to more people.
Okay, so my point would be, this is Facebook being extremely clueful. They were actually giving me a lever into doing this on an individual post basis.
Yeah. By the way, if you click the downward arrow on the top right of any Facebook post, I have get notifications in that drop-down menu.
All right, so maybe
Twitter
only
does
you
the
do.
same, by the way.
Yeah.
I used to get notifications every time John Furrier posted anything. And much as I love John, it irritated the hell out of me, and I could go into Twitter and turn it off.
Yeah. That's always been true for the last 2 years.
And Twitter's playing with filtering now. So I keep getting questions on Twitter, on the Twitter app, saying, would you like to see fewer notifications or more notifications? Then they're playing around as well.
Okay, so everybody's playing around with it except for Google.
Google is adding notification, and I would expect them to be also doing this, because notifications are the user interface now for finding out what the activity is in all of these different apps. It's how we are building a common user interface to the 100 apps that we have on our phones.
I think Google has slightly lost its path since Google Now. they're almost schizophrenic between deciding what the center of gravity is on Android, whether the center of gravity is now or whether the center of gravity is alerts and notifications. And I think if you were to pick a winner, they're trending towards Google Now. They just launched Google Now for Chrome, by the way, on the desktop. I think that's becoming their preferred channel.
So that's a good question for Kevin, since he's talking about how he gets notifications for YouTube comments via Google+. Which is it? Is Google wrapping everything in Google+, or are they wrapping everything in Google Now?
I think there are two competing efforts inside Google, and they're trying different things. Now does send notifications sometimes when it thinks it thinks you should do something, like for example when it thinks it's time for you to drive somewhere.
But I'm talking about what Facebook is now finally doing.
They will do those things like that, and their responses to they're like an acceleration of the Now process will feed stuff into that list of things you pull when you swipe up, and it will promote some of those notifications sometimes. So far, it's mostly been things like, if you don't leave the house now, you'll miss that meeting type notifications. I get extra amusing ones because it thinks I cycle everywhere, so it'll tell me, you need to leave the house now for that meeting in San Francisco in 6 hours' time. We never cycle there in time.
All right. But, so, I mean, if
Google is working this stuff out, but if you tell it you drive it, it gives you sensible.
If Google is...
what they're doing with Plus is they're gluing together a set of notification things there. So the YouTube integration with Plus means that if anyone comments on a YouTube video I've posted, that shows up as a notification on my phone because I've still got the G Plus notifications turned on. And then they will
can you rewind that?
I can go and read them there as well.
Can you rewind that, please? I don't understand what you just said. Can you hear me? I can't hear you saying that you can hear me. I can see you saying that.
You did, so I could hear you.
Yeah. But can you rewind and explain to me what you were just saying about Google+?
Plus is that's the idea of the kind of things that you would use a feed reader for those kinds of notifications. But they're using it as a mechanism to alert you when somebody sends you something. So if you post something to Google Plus and it's to public, I won't get a notification. But if you add me or a small group that I'm in to the Google Plus you post, that will notify me. And similarly, if you post a comment on a YouTube video that I've put onto YouTube, I will get a G Plus notification for that. I think that may again get damped if there are thousands of them, but I don't have any videos that are popular.
Okay. Now, thank you. So here's my sense of what's wrong with Google's strategy around notifications. You just described it. First of all, Google Plus, in my opinion, which I've said for a very long time, and I still have not heard any credible response to it, their circles strategy completely ruins any interest on my part for using the fruits of that environment, because you don't know who it is that you are being spoken to by. Therefore, you have no trust or social contract with that person, so you don't know who that person is talking to, not just me, but what group are you talking to. As a result, you end up doing what you just said, which is you end up turning off all of the notifications. So, notifications are essentially a form of capital punishment. Either you obey the rules, and the rules are you don't spam people, you're not too noisy, or you get excommunicated. They turn off your app. And that is the worst thing that can happen to anybody in this paradigm shift. What's going on here is
there's fundamental. Steve, there's a broader significance to that. There's a great website called Beacon, Beekn, that is talking about the emergence of the Internet of Things and real-world sensors and the relationship between that and alerts and notifications. And yesterday there was a great conversation in the threads, because the current state of the art in the Internet of Things is that you're going to be running multiple store apps. searching for different beacons in a mall, for example, and they're all going to be sending you alerts and notifications. So the conversation became, how do you get good behavior? Either by giving the user control and making it default opt-out and only opt-in by
There's
choice.
no either. The user is in control. I mean, I don't know why
the user is in control.
You're taking this to the next level before we've understood what the level is that we're on.
Sorry, I always do that.
Well, no, it's good. It's a good discussion, but answer my question, which is why do we even care about what Google is doing with notifications since they poisoned the well?
No, we care a lot.
Before it works.
We care a lot because Android is a huge part of the ecosystem of the human race.
Well, according to
And
Robert, which I
we don't want disenfranchised users being siloed in environments where they can't properly be in a dialogue with others because
I agree,
the
but
notifications get sidetracked somewhere.
But the problem is that you've got two basic superpowers, and one of them is not understanding what the nature of this transition is, or they understand it and they're trying to disrupt it.
Hold on. There's inside Google Now app, you can turn on and off notifications. So if you don't want notifications, you don't have to delete the app, right? And inside iOS, and most normal people,
but this is the better
don't
place.
know this, but there's a notification center, and then you can click on each app. Like here's my Facebook. You can click on each app and decide what kinds of notifications you're going to get.
Absolutely.
Like those red circles on your home screen are notifications as well. Whether you want sounds when a new notification comes in, how many notifications you want, whether they show up on your lock screen or not.
Do you think you're agreeing with me or disagreeing with me? Hang on a second.
I'm sort of disagreeing with you because
Google
Google mostly has good notifications.
No, they don't.
Because the Gmail app on both Android and iPhone have good notifications. The Google Now app has notifications. The Mapping app has notifications, and you can turn them on and off and control it. It's just the YouTube app that isn't sending
hang on a second.
notifications. So
hang on, Robert,
yeah.
Hang on.
So
hang on, Keith. I want to get the answer to the first question before we go on to the second question. What this conversation has revolved around to is basically saying that Google's doing fine because they've got notifications in Google Plus. And I've said Google Plus is broken because at the beginning of the chain of events, they don't have a security model that makes any sense to people that are trying to do what they can do on iOS and can't do on Android. That's my question.
That's not true.
I can
Google
help
Plus.
you. I can help.
Here, let me show you. I got
Let me help.
notifications right here in Google Plus, and they match what shows up in Android and iPhone. This is Google Plus's notifications right there.
Okay.
See
if you can help, Keith.
I can help. Look, this is Google Android latest version. Here's the notification center. Very similar to Apple's. In fact, better than Apple's in some ways because you can interact with each notification in the notification and send feedback without going to the app. So it's got a perfectly good notification center, and it's very good. But that isn't Google's priority. Google themselves are focused on Now and Plus. And so inadvertently, due to those focuses, they're undermining the heart and soul of the Android.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And that's a mistake, because if it were to succeed, all they'll really do is cut those people off in Now and Plus from the rest of the world.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And
because of that,
I think if you look at where Google Glass is going, Google Glass is giving you tastes of what's wrong with Google and what's right. And Google Glass does have notifications that new things show up and then start moving to the right in the glass. And that's a notification model. It's different than the notification model on iPhone
you can filter
or
it?
Android phones.
you can filter it.
I think Google is in flux, and there's different groups that believe different things. when you work at a big company like this, the entire company doesn't work together, and that's the problem.
No, that's not
it's
true.
Really a deep problem
That's
for
not
glass.
true. I agree with you.
It's a fundamentally flawed product because of that.
Robert, I agree with you that some companies have that problem. Google
No, a
is
lot
one
of
of
big
them.
companies do. Even
Apple
Salesforce,
doesn't have that
I mean,
problem.
I visited you guys, your office in St. John, Canada, a couple weeks ago, and talked about some of the problems inside Salesforce, and it's hard to integrate. You know how much effort it takes to get 15 different groups in different parts of the world to work together on a common goal. It's really
I
hard.
work there. I know way more than you how difficult it is to do that inside a company. Everybody on this call knows how difficult it is to make forward progress in certain areas at the companies they work for or have worked for.
Yeah.
Kevin has worked for Apple. He's worked for Google. What I'm saying to you is that in this era of notifications, which just like when we talked about RSS 1,000 years ago, and nobody got it, and then some people got it, and then the New York Times got it, and then, et cetera, et cetera. We're in an early phase, but not as early as people think. It's locking down fast now of a complete move to notifications being the center of the universe for all communications. That's not a small deal. So when we talk about one of the two major vendors, I mean, the third major vendor is completely out of the game, which is called, what was the name? You used to work for them, Robert.
Microsoft, you mean?
Yeah, they're completely out of the game.
They're
completely. They don't even have notifications.
We really haven't talked about the company that is clueless about notifications. And they made a choice to try to go to a tile-based model where little bits of information are scattered all over your home screen. And that model really sucks compared to the notification streams where you can just see new things popping in at the top.
Do you think that Sadia, or whatever his name is, do you think he's going to make something happen in this area?
I don't believe in the new CEO because he came out of the enterprise world at Microsoft. He's not a consumer guy. He's not a guy who...
This isn't a consumer issue.
Built a consumer product.
This is not a consumer issue. When you're in the enterprise and you're also a person, when you're in a consumer, you're also in the enterprise. You're a customer.
Right. But
it's the same person being interrupted or being informed by notifications. The fact that they're not there, the question is, does he have the power? Does he have the stamina? Does he have the will to be able to overturn the inertia at Microsoft?
I don't know, and I
don't either.
I don't believe in him until he does. So I'm betting that he does not.
I agree with you.
But what does he do? I mean, even if, let's say we were running Microsoft, just at the level of a high-level strategy, how do you get back in the game? You've got underwhelming OS in mobile. You've got a declining and confused OS on the desktop. You've got a game console in an era where games are moving to mobile. What have they've really only got enterprise. That's it. So they should probably do what IBM did, which is double down on what they've got, buy a consulting firm and stick to servers and maybe Azure. Azure is pretty decent and for the enterprise could work. I just made that up, but I definitely don't think mobile or desktop represents their future.
So now that we've gone down that rat hole of talking about Microsoft being clueless, let's back up a second and let's have Kevin, who seems to shake his head still about this discussion, explain to me what is Google going to do to avoid the fragmentation problem, which breeds less coalescence around the notification model, and what are they going to do about the fact that they've got two competing efforts inside. I mean, they've always had this problem. It's been seen as an advantage that they have multiple darts that they throw at the wall, and the ones that stick get more resources. They seem to be schizophrenic about this issue of, is it Google Now or is it Google Plus?
I don't think I
both.
don't read into that the skepticism. I think you're seeing it in a weird way, and it's not,
so does
it doesn't
Greg.
match with what
Greg
I'm
in the
seeing.
chat room thinks that is
Google Glass
confused
is really
too.
the signaler of where Google's going, and it has notifications. So
How do you? They have notifications based on what is the overarching thing that you as a user first talk to that then Google Glass supports.
No,
Is it
and
Google
also,
Plus?
I know that Google is working on a contextual operating system where the notifications are going to shift based on your context, and that's what Facebook really is trying to do with its testing that you're getting to see here and there. Why, if I'm giving a speech, why would I get a notification about something stupid? You know,
I don't
that should be
disagree
turned
with
off
you.
for a little while.
You're-
and then when I'm done with the speech or with a meeting or with whatever,
Why is it
then
that?
the
Why is it that
notifications
I'm
should
having?
get turned back on. And I think that's what you're going to start seeing from Google is a new notification
When?
system where the notifications can shift based on your context. You know, if you're running, I want to see sports related notifications, right? And emergencies. You know, if my wife is trying to get through to me. If you're just sitting on the couch, maybe more entertainment based notifications. If you're in a business meeting, more notifications from your coworkers, right? You could shift the notification stream around if the system really knew your context. And we're not quite there yet, but in the next 3 years, we're certainly going to be there.
Oh, it's going to take them 3 years to do this. Is that what you're telling me?
We're already seeing context shifts with the APIs underneath. Google at Google I/O last year announced an API where it presents whether you're walking, running, driving, or biking. And next year there'll be 10 contexts, and the year after there'll be 50, and the year after that, there'll be more. There needs to be an operating system underneath that understands your context. And Google Now is the first little taste of that, because Google Now knows where you are, whether you're in a meeting, whether you're traveling, stuff like that.
Okay.
And if it can present that to all the applications or to the notification center, then the notification center can shift what it's going to display to you based on your context.
So the answer that you just gave to my question is Google Now is going to win over Google Plus, which if it does, I agree with you, this is going to be a good thing for Google. If Google Plus continues to poison the well, it's not going to be a good thing for Google. And I see a lot of effort on their part to force people out of Gmail as the center into Google Plus. And I find it confusing, and I think that it's a dangerous problem for them. And Keith, I'll give you, please say what you need to say, but I want to get Kevin's response to this after that.
So I think that neither Google Plus nor Google Now should win. I think the notification center should win. And the notification center, every app has access to, including non-Google apps. And that's, from the human point of view, that's the centralizer. You don't push everything else into Google Now or into Google Plus. So those are proprietary apps that are for Google's personal goals, and they're perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with Google having personal goals. They should have, but they shouldn't confuse that with the ecosystem of Android itself. And the notification center has to be the center of the world there, not these other two things. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, Kevin.
You're confusing layers to some extent. It's like me saying Apple needs to get its act together because iMessage is crap and therefore their notification strategies are bad. Google has a notification model that is built into Android and is also built into Chrome. And they have a unified cloud service that lets you post notification that goes to both of those. And if you close it in one, it closes in the other. The Chrome-based one is built on the HTML5 notification spec, which is also in Firefox. So this means it works on Chrome OS, it works on Mac and Windows in Chrome and Firefox browsers. It doesn't work on Safari because Apple doesn't support that spec. What Apple has is its own weird proprietary notification thing in the top right-hand corner of my Mac here, which only ever seems to have stuff from like 2 months ago. 58 days ago was the last thing I've got there.
So you're answering
apart
my
from birthday
question.
notifications. From
So you're answering my question.
So Apple.
You're answering my question about what is wrong with Google by telling me what's wrong with Apple.
For you, because you're telling me Google sucks because of G plus and this, that, and the other, and they're doing 6 things at once. Apple is also doing 6 things at once. You're arguing on different layers.
But
the
Kevin,
notification stuff
Kevin.
is important. It needs to be cross-platform, and Google has a strategy for that.
But
They use
Kevin,
that channel
one difference
for
between
different,
Apple and
services
Google,
applications in different
everybody
ways.
has the same notification system on Apple. It's not fragmented. Everybody has a different experience on Android, particularly if you go where the market share is to the lower rungs of the market. They have a very different experience than what we are having on our top end Samsung and Moto X phones.
I think it's a challenge for Google to appreciate fully the power they have owning the device. Google is a software company. And as a software company, they think in software terms. And as Kevin said, their whole style as a company is to have internally competing efforts. Some come from the desktop world, some come from the Chrome world, some come from the Android device-centric world. And that internal competition leads to external confusion. And I think that it isn't about layers. It's about what does the device do, which is a separate question from what does Chrome do, which is a separate question from what does Google Now do, which is a separate question from what does Google Plus do. The device is hierarchically above all of those. And it's the device that centralizes, even for Apple, the device centralizes iMessage. You're right, Kevin, it's just an app. The same way Google Now is an app or Google Plus is an app. But Apple doesn't confuse you by pretending that iMessage should be used for alerts or notifications. It's just used for messages. That's it. And Google Now, on the other hand, what is that for? And Google Plus, what is that for? It's very clear what the notification center is for in Android. It's for notifications.
Okay.
It's very clear that chat is done through Hangouts. Those are clear. Those are the same as Apple. But it's way, way less clear what Now is. Now is interesting because it has contextual decision making. I probably, if I was Google, would put Now into the notification center. I'd even be happy if they called the notification center Now.
Well, that's what Robert is. That's what Robert is basically saying is going to happen with the Google Glasses effort that's underway. So that makes sense, and that's what I mean by Google Now wins as opposed to Google Plus. But something about Google Plus, I think they've got ad blindness, torturing a term that is meaningless and using it for this. They have blindness toward, an attack on Facebook that forces them to think about Google Plus where they should be thinking about notifications. That's my opinion. And Kevin, I think that everything that you say about the web and the fact that Chrome and therefore the web, HTML5, the things that you were talking about, is meaningless in the context of notifications until notifications win. At that point, when notifications is the tip of the spear, that's the lead of the platform, then you bring in the web and make it compatible. But right now, it's a distraction.
You need to notify when you're using the web as well. My experience is the opposite of yours. When you try and contact me on iMessage, I don't get it because it doesn't propagate to my devices. It only comes to my Mac.
Again,
or my
again,
iPod.
you're talking about Apple. I don't disagree with you about the inefficiencies of Apple's technology and their strategies. What I am saying to you is that Google is making a profound mistake by confusing the user at the beginning of the pipe.
Can I just say something, Steve?
Yeah.
I think buried inside this conversation is an ugly reality and also an opportunity. The ugly reality is that there is no harmonized alert and notification platform for human beings. And that's a symptom of, firstly, the Apple, Google, and to a lesser extent, Microsoft and others, fragmentation of mobile, where they're not going to create common infrastructure that works between them other than that which already exists, which are basically phone numbers and for use
Okay,
on
well,
voice and text.
Put that
But
on the
therein lies
side. Put that on the side because
there's an
that's
opportunity.
We've talked about this discussion over and over again. So put that on the side until something appears that solves that problem. And
Yeah. Well, that was
I
my next
reserve
point.
my opinion about whether that's going to happen.
Well, that's my next
But-
point.
but
In the
make
web, in the web era, we moved from the web as portals to Web 2.0, where web services became...
We never unified the web.
No, and
As soon as we unified the web,
I-
apps came
I'm,
along.
I'm not saying we unified it. I'm saying we moved to a service layer, away from portals, fragmentation, in other words, to a service layer that created a different possibility. And in mobile, we haven't really done that yet. We're still in the app and device-centric phase. The next phase, I would call it infrastructure as a service, is absolutely inevitable. That people like Pass attempted, for example, or Urban Airship to some extent, you are going to get cross-platform services targeting mobile users across different mobile devices that will end up being way more attractive than either Apple's or Google's offerings due to the fragmentation.
Okay, maybe, but what I'm saying to you is something really simpler than what you're talking about. Any of you are talking about. Maybe Scoble was talking about what I'm saying. It is irrelevant having a cross-platform solution. It doesn't mean a thing if it turns out that you never get there, that it's always a receding parallel line.
Yeah.
Let me finish. The thing that does matter that Google could do, and which I suggest they should do because it's really important that Google, who has the lion's share of the devices in the world, is they can provide an end-to-end solution that works for them. It doesn't matter whether it is compatible with another solution. If at the end of the day you put in the data on both systems and it comes out at the other end the same way, the user wins, because in a notification environment, it doesn't matter whether you are on different apps or anything else. They are all multiplexed together on the individual device. And that's true for Apple, and it should be true for Google, but they're missing the boat because of their own internal confusion about where they're going to put the target that they're shooting at. Does that make sense to anybody?
Yeah, I think it does. Simon Tennant in the chat is making the point that none of this is relevant because the notification center actually works. And from the point of view of the user, you can ignore now if you don't like it, and you can ignore plus if you don't like it, and it doesn't get in the way of notification center working. I think that's a fair point. That's true. But it's also true.
How can that be true? How can that doesn't address the issue that I brought up originally, which is if you don't have trust in who it is that you're talking to and who the group is that surrounds that conversation in a notification environment, which is what happens with Google Plus because circles are broken. If you don't have trust in it, you won't use it. If you don't use it, then you're automatically taking. It may not be a huge number of people, but I don't know how many times we have to watch Google Plus fail to attract any real users except for photos because people don't trust what it's doing. They have no signals that make it clear. If you're
I think that's true for Plus, Steve. That's true for Plus.
That's all I'm saying.
But it isn't true for Notification Center on Android.
I agree with you, but when you have the company that is providing these tools pushing you into Google Plus, every time that you do anything in the system, if you're in Gmail and you try and set up a setting, I don't even remember what I was trying to do, and all of a sudden I'm being barraged by these Google Plus ads, and now you're in Google Plus. I tried to go to settings for Gmail and I end up in settings for Google Plus. It's crazy.
Yeah. No. Well, that is a function of what I was talking about before. Larry, I hope Larry understands this stuff, and if Larry listens to this show, Larry, if you don't understand it, you should pause and think, because Android is a device. It has a notification center that the user depends on. It's the center of their world. It makes absolutely no sense to shift the user's center somewhere else, especially when that somewhere else isn't as good. So it makes no sense. So Google Now and Plus, and the integration of Plus with profiles is incredibly, incredibly confusing and a mistake. Because and to back off from that represents a huge opportunity for Google, because the centralizing place on Android is the notification center, and Samsung and LG and others never take that over and cannot take that over, and that is the place to experiment. Add to that the back-end cloud services that support notification center, and by the way, Now could sit there to make it more intelligent, and you have a massive opportunity.
Absolutely. They have an enormous opportunity, but they're cutting their nose off to spite their face. I don't understand. Francine in the chat room says, that's true for Plus, but not for notification. I love my Android notifications. I love them too, as much as I can, hear about it, since I never use them. But if I did use them, I would love them too, except, she says, I don't notice being pushed into Google Plus. How did you get into those notifications? How were those? I'm asking Francine. How was this set up for you? What
on the desktop? It's on the desktop, Steve. I mean.
Oh, I'm sorry. The web. I don't care.
The web.
It's how do you set it up on the mobile device?
Google's account management is heavily web centric.
That's right.
And they've now
mistake number one.
And they've integrated YouTube, Google Plus, and your Google profile into a single profile that is horizontal across all of them. And in any given interface, they push you to Google Plus to manage it, because they've decided that's the default one. That's the place you should manage your profile.
Bingo. You just said it. So
therefore, what they've got on the web is just it's basically a historical hybrid of what used to be 3 separate identity systems being merged into one and not complete. That's why it's
okay.
confusing.
So you just gave the answer, and Francine said I was on Gmail on the web. Exactly. So there was a moment in time when the web was unparalleled as the unification of all technology. That is no longer true. Mobile is now dominant. So if you can't tune it on mobile, then what are we talking about here? I will go weeks without using the web, except, of course, embedded inside of these mobile devices, which is, of course, a wonderful thing. Before Kevin, makes the argument that is obvious, which is that, it's all about the web. Yes, it is. But the interface, the replacement for Windows is notifications, period. Go ahead, Robert.
I was going to say, Steve,
and Robert's
it's not
talking, but he
can't
can't.
on the web.
Oh, sorry.
I can't hear him.
That's a massive hole.
Say it again. Robert, you muted or something?
Sorry. Yeah, I muted myself so you wouldn't hear.
Yeah.
So if you look at the new Gmail app, and this requires you getting the Gmail app, not the iPhone app, there's notification control. You can see all your new mail, including all your promotional stuff, or you can see only email that goes into the primary folder, which is how I like it. I only want to see important email. I don't want to see all the crap that comes in. And Google is getting notifications. It's just
we're not arguing about whether they've got multiple initiatives that are moving in the right direction. The question is when are they going to organize this into something that doesn't confuse the very power users that want to be able to do this in a way that is reminiscent or somehow effective or even more effective than what Apple's doing. They're not doing it.
I think where I would be going with this is Gmail's or Google Plus's notifications are really hard to understand. I keep getting notifications about things that I really don't care about in Google Plus.
Bingo.
And that's what I wish Google would fix.
Me too.
not that they don't understand that notifications are important. It's just that they are not centralizing the control of those notifications and not making it easy. And for me or for a normal person who really doesn't care about technology that much. And that's leading to the angst about Google Plus, because you're getting over notified in bad places. I mean, if you take notifications all the way to the end result, you're going to end up with what I get on Twitter, which is a new tweet every few seconds, right? That's a notification right there. A new tweet just arrived.
All right, so
and
Scoble,
I don't want to see every new tweet.
Scoble.
There's another one. I don't want to see that on my phone's lock screen. So I choose not to display very many Twitter notifications. And Twitter gives you really granular control of notifications from people and from brands. You can turn them on or off. But I want new kinds of notifications that are filtered.
Okay.
It only brings me a notification when it's important. That requires two things. One, it requires understanding what's important at the Twitter level, but it also needs to understand context at the operating system level. If I'm running, I want different kinds of notifications to come to me. If I'm at South by Southwest, I want different kinds of notifications to come to me. If I'm in a business meeting, I want yet different notifications to come to me, right?
Okay, Robert, I don't know about the last part, but everything else that you said, we're going to put it on a loop, and we're going to send that to Francine. Francine, just study what he said. If you don't understand me, understand Robert, because he just said it completely and succinctly, which is that if we don't trust the notification stream, we won't use it. And if we don't use it, we're running away from history. We're running away from what's really happening. We're running away from this moment. That's my point.
I would say that Secret, going back full circle here, Secret is doing a really good job of using notifications, and it's almost a parallel of what Facebook did back when it started with email. I don't know if you remember that, but Facebook was really great at sending an email saying such and such a person wants to be your friend, and you had to respond and go and approve on Facebook, and it was the primary mechanism for pulling people back into the app. Secret's doing that with notifications really, really well, and if there were 10 apps doing that, it would be a problem because there'd be too many. And it's even a little bit of a problem with Secret because most of the notifications you don't care about, but you care about enough that you always go and look. And it kind of gives a signal to what the future looks like.
Okay, let's go around the table once, and I want to start with Kevin since he's been the most beleaguered today.
I think we're slightly talking past each other a bit here. I think Robert's right about contextual stuff being important, and that's exactly what the Google Now experiment is about, is trying to make sense of when to send you notifications about weather and when to send you notifications about buses and trains and travel time and things like that. They're fairly good at that. Foursquare has also done a very good job recently of sending you a push notification if you're somewhere you're not normally. So if you go to a different city and it's around the time you'd look for food, they says, have you thought about this place around the corner? They're getting good at those, and they're actually timely. I've been impressed with those. I haven't seen this from Apple, so that piece of it I think is not there because they don't have the AI big data chops to do that. What they do have is a good operating system infrastructure for notifications, as does Google. But I find that the message center and iOS notification stuff are not a great combination.
Okay, Robert.
What was that, Robert?
Sorry, I had muted. This is the Foursquare notification. You can see that you can change the frequency you get something, and also you can go friend by friend and shift the notifications from your friends. Like Kevin, I have you on full notifications because I want to see where I want to stalk you basically. And some people I have only on some notifications, and most people I have turned totally off because it just gives you too much notification. and I really don't care about where most people are checking in, right?
Option which is good as well.
What's that?
Options is tell me when this person's checks in and they're nearby.
Yes.
And they're also
Yes.
quite good at somebody from New York that you know is now in town type notifications.
Yeah, that's true. That's the middle setting where you just show when they're close to you. I think there's going to be some radical changes in the notification stream, particularly on the Android side. I'm predicting that's what we're going to see at Google I/O, beyond just having a smart Bluetooth compatibility, which Android does not have the full spec supported. It can't send a beacon, for instance, where iPhone can. And I think at Google I/O they're going to turn that on, just like Apple already has it on. But I think notifications are going to be the differentiator between the three major OSs. Microsoft has gone into the tile-based notification, which I just don't like. I know there's people out there who really like that UI, but it's not as efficient. It doesn't show you enough information in the tiles, and it's not in a stream where I can see what just came in and what's older. And that really makes that useless to me. Android, I love the interaction from notifications. So when you see a notification come in, you can actually reply or do things there. Google also, it lets app developers go much deeper into the OS itself. You can talk to the radios, you can talk to the phone, you can talk to the contacts and the calendar and other things, and even into other apps, deeply into the other apps. Apple doesn't allow most of that. And that's, I think, Kevin, that's sort of where you're coming from, where notifications are better on Android because different kinds of notifications are possible on Android and not on Apple. But Apple has better looking notifications and more information in the actual notification on my favorite formats. Oh yeah, it does. Compare what you see on a notification from Twitter, for instance, on Apple versus what shows up on my Samsung or Google Now phone.
Well, that's
I
just Twitter
like
being
the
crap at
Apple
it.
one better.
I've built my own tool that does much better notifications from Twitter.
Yeah, you do it better.
I don't
you
like
do.
them as well, and that
I
and
know,
I
but
understand.
Kevin's
some people,
right.
Some people like the Windows Phone notifications better. I don't. It's for me. I like the Apple ones better, but I'm missing things that the Android one has. I really did like the ability to click on something and reply to it or share it right from the notification bar and not have to go to the app and wait for the app to pop up and then share it from there. So it's a mess. There is no one perfect notification system. If you're on Android, you're missing some things. If you're on Windows Phone, you're missing a lot. If you're on Apple, you're missing some things. So
They don't
I hope
all
they
have
all
to
copy each other this year.
Yeah,
More.
exactly. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to have, a trusted channel through which they pass information, so that people can basically do the same thing on both systems. How they do it can vary, but the trust is everything. And I haven't heard an answer to the fragmentation of Google Plus. And I hope that they come up with it, because right now, well, I've said this too many times. Keith.
So I'm going to change the subject and say this is for Robert. Hey, Robert, I got the Mac Pro. Can you see it there?
Oh, I'm so jealous.
And 2 4K screens, which are Retina. Look at that. That's a 4K screen that can be Retina.
I'm jealous doubly now.
It's a Dell screen. So
But
this is
I was hanging out with Slash this week, so it's equal.
Slash is who?
If you don't know who Slash is, go to Spotify. Put Slash.
He's
in there,
the
you'll
Flea,
find
right? Isn't he the same guy?
What? One of the world's best guitarists.
Oh, okay. I saw a post by some moron that said that the Beatles are overrated.
Okay.
He said, well, what about Jimi Hendrix? I said, yeah, Jimi Hendrix, amazing. Beatles, Amazing. The guy's an idiot. It was in the Washington Post. Washington Post is an idiot. Oh, before we leave, what about this plane? What is going on here?
I have no clue. Although they're now saying that the plane flew somewhere else for 4 hours. So God knows if that's dead, if it's sitting in some airport somewhere that we don't know, in North Korea or something. I really don't know.
Jesus.
I think the one thing you can say for very likely it didn't crash.
No, I don't think that's likely. I think
we don't know that.
I think
why would
I think
somebody
they lost consciousness.
Kidnap 200
when
people
they went to,
and take them somewhere. I don't know.
When they went to 47,000 feet, the plane couldn't withstand that. They probably all lost consciousness at that point.
That's a possibility, and friends who are pilots say that does happen from time to time, where a plane gets a hole in the skin and leaks all the air out, and also lets the cold in. I mean, remember when you're up at altitude, it's 30, 40 below. Temperature-wise, so if there's something that fails in the plane, it can still be flying, but everybody inside is frozen to death, and that has happened where planes have done that and then continue flying on autopilot for quite a while. But if that did happen, the radar systems on the ground should have picked it up and know where it sort of crashed. This is a very fascinating experiment in not having coverage on our radar systems.
I think it's really spooky. I mean, it feels like a Twilight Zone episode, and I just, it makes dreams really scary.
Remember how Lost started out, right?
No, I don't.
It feels like Lost. It's like, where are these people? They're lost somewhere,
Okay, well, I was hoping for an answer.
It's sad. Either way, it's sad because I have a feeling they're not coming back.
Okay. I've already said my thank yous, but I'll say a couple of them again. I want to thank Tina Chase Gillmor for her incredible production and skill at being able to put up with me. I want to thank Lick Wilmerding for accepting our daughter. I want to thank Mark Benioff for making it possible for us to be able to send her there. And I'm not kidding about that. And I want to thank all of you folks for putting up with me and the rest of the chat room, except for Francine, who, of course, is right, and we all bow down to her. Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.